We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about...
Everything Theater. Hi, folks. I'm Benita Zahn,
And I am Ellen Cribbs.
and I am coming to you from West Springfield, Massachusetts, where as we record this, I'm about to open Shear Madness with the Majestic Theater. And our guest today is also in the show. We've got Jeff Haffner with us. And last summer, Jeff and I were both in the same show up in Lake George Dinner Theater with Ellen Pietrangelo. And she may or may not be able to join us today. But anyway, Ellen, I got that out of the way. What's going on, sister?
Well, it's the end of summer. We're ramping up. People have their seasons starting, and we are sponsored. So let me tell you about our wonderful sponsorship this week, which I'm very excited about because it's Harbinger Theater, who we love, but in partner with Albany Civic Theater, where I am artistic director. So this is a first for Albany Civic. We've partnered with Harbinger to bring the first show of our season, and it's called Maggie May by Frances Poet. A beautiful story about a family dealing with Alzheimer's. Their mother has Alzheimer's, and the trials and tribulations that has on a family and the hope that springs at the end of dealing with it. It's really a wonderful show. And what's amazing is that this is the United States premiere of this show. You have not seen this anywhere in the United States before, and they trusted us to bring the premiere to the United States.
And the cast is wow.
Oh my gosh, talk about, well, it's directed by Chris Foster, of course, and then it's got Melissa Hoffman, Gary Maggio, Robin Leary. It's full of amazing people who have been doing the theater in the area for a long time.
Opening the dates.
So if you want to catch a free preview tomorrow, Thursday on the 5th, it's a free preview. Otherwise, it runs from the 6th through the 22nd. So you got 3 weekends to catch it. And there's some fun things here. There's a I Love the 70s reception night on the 7th and a talk back after the 15th. Come check it out.
And while they didn't promote us, but I'm going to give them a shout out also. Fort Salem Theater is about to open The Drowsy Chaperone.
Nice.
So that's just, if you haven't seen it and you need an end of summer laugh, please, book a ticket to go see that. And if you want to hit the road and have an end of summer laugh, come on over here to the Majestic Theater in West Springfield. From Albany, it's only about an hour 10. So, and there's a good restaurant right next door, the West Side Grill. Is that it, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. We've
West
only
Side.
hung
I
out there
think
once.
The locals just call it West Side, so I'm not sure of the full title, but it is
So,
a good place.
We're gonna bring Jeff in the conversation here. I should point out, and that Shear Madness is the longest running non-musical show in the country. It's 40 years old, Jeff?
Yeah, over the 1978, so 22 plus 24 is 46.
Adapted from a German play, so it wasn't funny, is the standard line. But it's a murder mystery, and it was adapted by Bruce Jordan and Marilyn
Abrams
from Albany, and they did it up at the Lake George Dinner Theater. What was the Lake George? It wasn't at the restaurant at the time, and it was a hit. And it had a very long run in Boston, which is where I originally saw it years ago. It's still playing at the Kennedy Center. It's been all over. They just signed for a new production in China. And I'm still trying to figure out, Jeff, how some of the comedy relates. But the thing about this is, if you know dinner theater, if you know a murder mystery, this is not that. No. But there is audience participation. So, Jeff, give us a sense of the challenge and dynamic of doing something like this with audience feedback required and necessary. And Jeff plays the detective, so he is, in essence, the ringleader of the of the interrogation and all. And I'm one of the suspects, which is why the haircut, because my hair gets washed on set every night. And if we have a matinee, it gets washed twice a week.
Yeah. There's another actor who gets shampooed, and I don't think either of them shampoo their hair the whole run at home because
Yeah.
it would just dry out, I guess.
I won't wash my hair on my own until after the 20th of October.
This is my 7th Shear Madness. I started as a suspect in the show in 2015, and then I was asked to move into the role of Nick, and then I played Eddie one more time, but I've been the detective for a while. It's a unique challenge because the show's different every night, and I think it's a quote from Bob Lorman that Bruce conveyed to us last summer. Is
Sure, Bob Lorman is directing us this year, and he directs the one at the Kennedy Center.
the Kennedy Center, which is over 30 years old, and I think they'll catch the Boston production. That's my guess at some point. So not only is Shear Madness the longest running non-musical play in U.S. history, it's the top 3 longest running non-music. It's Boston, DC, and Chicago. But I think the quote from Bob Lorman that Jordan conveyed to us last summer was, the audience has a key role and they don't know their lines. And that's really sums up the whole thing. We don't know where they're going to be, where they're coming from. Sometimes you have to encourage the audience to get involved. They're fearful or they're shy. Sometimes you need to, how shall I put this? Control, contain, shape their responses as they come. It is very much like walking a tightrope without a net, but I think that's part of the draw for the actors who've done it at all, but also multiple times. So you get used to that sort of element of danger. A lot of the show is the same every night. There's certain pieces and parts, how it fits like a puzzle. But it also teaches you to take things as they come. You can't force or, their starring role as they bring the stuff to you. So I try to listen. In fact, we were talking about one particular moment last night in notes, and that's a big rule is we give them the show they ask for. If they ask for things, certain evidence, questions for the suspects, we answer what they ask. We give them what they request. And even if there's material we'd like to bring into it because it's funny, and then when they affect the outcome of the play, that is highly sacred, how they determine that end. So it's we were talking about this a little yesterday too, that it's very zen. You have to be absolutely prepared, and yet you just have to be very flexible too, and then just roll with it. It's not like anything else I've ever done. I was telling Beth and Benita, we share housing here at the theater. So I've shared some more stories about my Shear experience. But there was a year I did 3 productions of Shear and a British panto. And I think at the end of that year, I needed to do a play where the audience was quiet. Because it's not that it's not fun and it's not engaging. It's just it's tiring. There is a component where you're having to keep that circle going, and it does take a lot of concentration and focus and just quick brain power to assimilate everything. So Beth was saying last summer we did a long healthy run at Lake George, and while we were all very sad the show ended, she said she was relieved, and I said I'm always relieved at the end of a run of Shear because anything can happen. And
I want to just jump in, despite the fact that Jeff's done this is his 7th production, he has a wealth of very rich resume of performing all around. And, Ellen, remember we spoke to the executive artistic director at Shadowland a while back down. Jeff's been there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did Shear Madness there. Summer of 2019. And the Shear Madness always takes place on the day it's happening in the city with the weather. So everything is so. And my character always wears one of the local sports teams T-shirts or jerseys. And we were in New York, and Brendan's a big Mets fan, so I wore a Mets jersey And I said, "This is a little big on me." He goes, "Yeah, I'm keeping it after the end of the run." But that was, and we had our Mrs. Shubert, the role that Benita's playing in this. She had been in the Boston production for 5 years as Barbara DeMarco years ago. So it's just it's quite a tapestry surrounding the piece. I saw it in high school on a school trip to Boston, and my brother had seen it on his school trip the year before.
Yeah. And Ellen, you saw us last summer, didn't you?
I did. It's
Oh,
fabulous. It's so fun.
So what strikes you? I mean, I saw it in Boston years ago, and then I thought I want to be Barbara. Well, I've aged out of that role. I'm Mrs. Shubert now, but I love putting the pearls on. But what struck you? Is something that talks to you as a performer?
To me, as
You?
like
Yeah,
as an audience member watching it,
yeah.
I mean, so, kind of to the point of Jeff's talking of like recognizing as an audience member enjoying it, but also as an actor watching and going, oh my gosh, the amount of focus this requires of having to be listening to every tiny thing and being on. I mean, like you guys didn't even get an intermission really because you take especially you, Jeff, we're in the lobby, right, talking to the audience and collecting questions to bring to Act Two. And so it's very similar to improv. I actually did I teach at U Albany and we had our big improv class yesterday, and talking to the kids about how improv is scary for a lot of actors because you think, oh, I got to be witty and I got to be sharp and clever, and but really it's all about the focus, right? It's about being really cued into what's going on, listening, being aware, and staying true to that character you've created.
yeah, I would say I don't really identify as an improv person. I know that and people ask me, I was like, well, I feel like I'm quick, but it's more and I guess ultimately it's a similar process, is that you just respond truthfully and with the parameters that you've sort of set up. And I've done a lot of interactive work like at theme parks where you have to be quick-witted and you have to know your information. But as far as like taking, I don't know, there's a line there for me that always, when people say, "Oh, you must be good at improv," I'm like, well, uh, I think we have a lot of ammunition in the script. Uh, as long as you kind of know, there is an illusion, I think, of some of the wit and jokes. But yeah, you're right. You have to keep track of everything. So I think they're very similar, very related. But I don't necessarily say I'm an improv person because I haven't taken any classes in it. Uh, but yeah, so but that illusion is important, and I think this shows, we've been talking about this a lot too. It sort of separates some actors. Like if you in any show you do, you should know your character's arc, story, your information. So if an audience member was to ask you, you'd say, "Well, I went to the store, I did this and that," and you know, and I've worked with actors on this show that can't do that. So I think there is a different level because you're going to get called on it in this one if you're not consistent, or if you even I've heard actors get notes on the show in any role, and it's like, when you hesitate on your line, sounds like you're lying,
Mm.
and that's going to affect how this character is seen, and that performance and this production. You're going to have an effect on how the show is seen. So don't hesitate, just say you're lying, just come in. Whereas another show, if you take a second to say the line, it's not going to be the end of the world. But this
I
actually
described this. I said it backstage last night. This is like the wave crashing to the shore. You can't stop it. All you can do is ride it.
I'd say it's like getting on a moving train. You've just got to hang on. But yeah,
As an itinerant performer, because that's what you are, Jeff. You're not, how many days of the year are you home?
that's hard to say. I mean, I just did uh some stuff is local. There is stuff in Cleveland, but it's been a while actually. I do Nutcracker just about every year, and that's local. But I was in Shenango River Theater in Binghamton for Boing Boing in the spring, Indiana before that for a farce. I try to work. I just keep trying to work. Um, I do have a home base. I think that helps. I think for many years, when I didn't have that, if I was crashing at my parents or something, when I come home in between gigs, um, I was not as happy. Knowing I have a home that I go back to has made a difference, having that home base. But the travel's hard. I mean, I think people hear all the time, "Oh, you're an actor. That must be exciting," and it is. It's fun, but I know, I have a 9-hour drive to get out, like when I came here, and then there's the day you move in. Uh, so you got to get all your clothes and toiletries and stuff in the house, and you got to find the grocery store. You just know that's a long day, and so I'm getting to the point now where I don't think I want to do as much traveling. Although I love the work, so it's tough. I still think I can do it, but I think people have maybe an image of some of that glamour of theater. I still laugh. One of my first gigs was working for a touring giant puppet theater out of Cincinnati, Madcap. They're still around. They do really great stuff. And but my first year, before I learned the puppets, I played what they call a human character, which like on Sesame Street, they found the kids respond better to the puppets if they talk to adult humans. So we were doing a fairy tale, and I'm in a kid's bathroom trying to put tights on in a stall that's built for 8-year-olds. I'm banging around trying to get in these tights because I am like a fairy tale costume, and I'm just thinking the glamorous world of theater, you know. So, but you love it, doing the show, and the kids were so excited, and we had these huge puppets, just huge, 12, 14 feet tall. So, so it was a great experience, but there is a sweat and dirt element to the work for sure that you sort of learn to get used to. But yeah, I've been to 48 states as a performer. I've been to Alaska. I did that. It was Coyote Tales, which was a puppet and mask piece with a company that no longer is in existence, Tears of Joy Theater, Portland and Vancouver. And we toured all of California and Nevada. We even performed on the Native American reservations in New Mexico. So I feel like there's a lot of miles, but I wouldn't trade it at this point. I mean, that's been the sort of the working tapestry of my life, was traveling and performing and teaching. I also do a lot of teaching, and I think that's also going to be part of my whatever legacy I have. That will probably be part of that too.
What are the 2 states that are missing from your performance resume?
Hawaii and Maine. Yeah, yeah. I've been performing in all this. I've traveled to all of them, and usually I was touring. But I was in New Hampshire. That's where I did the British Panto. And I guess if I didn't in my car, but if we'd driven 20 miles or something, I could have hopped over the border. I'm not sure that counts, but
Okay, so any theater company that's listening in, get a hold of Jeff. He's looking for production in Maine.
Maine.
He's happy to go. And definitely in Hawaii. I don't know if you're listening to us, if anybody podcasts, listens to our podcast, not get with it. Because we do talk to people all over the country. But Jeff would like that, especially between the months of December and May. So I'm just
Even if it's just a resort gig, I'd be happy. I'd be happy to go.
maybe we
Yeah,
have to hook him up with Brandon Jones rather.
Yeah.
Brandon is a local performer local to the 518, who now has been doing the shows on is it Celebrity or Queen of, I'm not sure which
Trying to
one.
remember what
But
the
anyway,
cruise
one
line
of the
is.
cruises. He'll get a hold of us. He'll go, come on, Benita and Ellen, you've talked to me, which cruise line. But and he just opened. Matter of fact, we keep talking. I'm gonna check it out. But you can always go out on a cruise with Brandon Jones.
okay.
You know, you
Where do I
never know.
sign up? Now, I did the Disney Cruise Line for a while. I don't know. Do you know that story? I did an audition. I was an entertainment host. That was a rough gig. I have to say, I didn't enjoy it. It was 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to midnight. And plus, I was a young person. I was too old. I think that was a part of the problem. I
Hmm.
showed up and we did an introduction, and I said, I said my name and that I have an equity card and that I have an MFA in acting. And the girl next to me in the circle uh, had just graduated high school, had worked at Build-A-Bear. And I thought one of us is in the wrong place. And it was me.
That is an interesting comment, Jeff. How long at your age, he's over the age of 30. Do you see yourself still packing and unpacking and packing and unpacking as
You
an
mean
ongoing?
you mean just traveling to
Yeah.
gigs? Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I ever want to retire completely, and I do like directing. I've gotten more into that, and we've talked about. I'm looking at doing some writing actually, uh, but that's my first love, and I don't know that I'd ever really want to stop as long as I'm physically able. Although I even looked at this one like flying instead of doing the drive. But sometimes it's just not tenable if it's too close. Like flying to California makes sense. Flying to Florida from Ohio makes sense. But like even they said I could fly to Binghamton, but I would have had to connect in Texas to go to New York. So it's like, yeah, I'll just drive at that point. So some of the things I might want to ease some of that I don't know what you want to call it, the perils of traveling that I might the hard like I said last summer when we closed the show, I was sad and then I drive 9 hours or 8 hours. So it's some of that I'd like to reduce some of those obstacles, but I don't know that Moliere died on stage, and I think that'd be a good way to go. Maybe not for the audience, but I think doing what you love.
Do you want to continue doing Nick, the Colonel, officer? I call him everything in the show.
Major.
Major, right? I'm not so. What is your rank?
Lieutenant.
Oh, it's lieutenant. Oh, I've called you lieutenant too. Yeah, I've
Lieutenant
called him
Nickel
everything.
Bryan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Although that's not known to the audience, but yeah.
you are lieutenant, so she gets it right once,
When do you call me lieutenant?
don't I? I don't know.
Colonel, major.
Major. In
Yeah.
other words, lieutenant,
Yes,
right there.
that is correct.
Yes, in other words, lieutenant, you want us to tell you step by step. You've got to come to the show to hear the rest of it.
I will keep playing Nick until they tell me I'm not allowed to anymore. I as long as I can remember it too, and as long as I think I have a number of years to do that. But I also know, and I think as I age out, I can probably go back to Eddie. Could probably go back to
Yeah.
Eddie for a little bit. I know they cast that older at the Kennedy Center, so I would probably.
Should
And then
point out, I was going to say not Mikey, and Mikey, and he's young, he's the psychic. He's actually played by another performer who hails from the Capital Region, Michael DeVito, that you may have seen on stage. I know he's done Playhouse Stage Company. Before I came over here, everybody said, "Oh, you're going to work with Mike DeVito. You know him." And I went, "No, I don't." We've been same church, different pew. We've done shows back to back for a company, but we didn't have crossover. And he's originally from Avil Park. Just wonderful. Got to give him a shout out, along, of course, with Beth Pietrangelo, who folks know and love in the Capital Region. And
Mike's been a sponge. Well, first of all, it's nice that his name is Mike and Mikey. That makes it very easy. But no, he's been, and we had a talk in the dressing room the other night. I said, the good part, that one of the best things about playing Mikey is, he said, what? I said, you could age through the show now. You can play every role in the show if that's something you want to do and it works out that way. But it is possible. And he was like, I never thought of that. It's like, that's great. Yeah. So because I came to it later. I was, above 30 when
you miss Mikey. Yeah.
when I played
But I
Eddie.
can't keep tabs on the clock here, which I usually do. How are we doing? Do we need to plug Harbinger again?
Sure, we'll throw a shout out, and we got a few minutes before our close-up segment. But yeah, just a reminder to check out Maggie May at Albany Civic, running from the 6th through the 22nd of September. You can get tickets at Albany Civic's website or at the box office. Come check us out.
I didn't tell Jeff about the close-up.
Oh boy, that'll be a surprise at the end. I had a question though, because coming back 7th time, correct? Right? You said?
Yeah.
Does it feel like with, different locations that you're doing it, different cast, does it feel like a different show each time, or is it kind of like revisiting an old friend?
It's a little bit of both, right? I mean, the blocking stays pretty much the same, little variances. I find early on, if we have different cast members, because I've worked with, I don't know, 3 or 4 different Mrs. Schuberts and 3 or 4 different, each of the characters. So there's sort of some ghosts that haunt you a little bit. It's like, well, you hear the echoes of the other a little bit, but you kind of have to let that go. And it's not even a comparison. It's just, it's out there. It's a reality. Um, and yeah, it is like revisiting an old friend. Actually every month now I go through the script because I figure I'm going back, and that way I don't have to. So I sort of live with it now, because there's just too much. There was when I worked for Brendan, I got hired. I was doing a show in Columbus, and I had to go. I was there. I didn't even have a script with me in Columbus, and so I had a friend send me an emailed copy. It wasn't my copy, so I could start relearning it. And it had been a couple years since I'd done it, and it took a couple weeks to sort of relearn everything. And then I had to go late to the start of rehearsals. I was shooting a video project in Cleveland for the Cleveland Orchestra, and so I had to go late. I didn't think I'd get hired, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and I promised I would come off book, and I was like, "Now I got to do it," and I did, and I showed up, and Brendan looked at me. I had just met the cast minutes before, and he said, "Okay, let's do a run through." I looked him in the eye and said, "Okay," threw my script on a chair and did a run through. So you sort of slot in. Um, but yeah, I mean, this Shear will have a different identity than, because of the people, the time, the place. It is hard. I think Benita and Beth have learned, since this is their second time through it. The line changes, the local. Sometimes it takes a little bit to fight the muscle memory you have of the lines the way we said them last time, because everything has to be updated for current events and geographic location. But
Sometimes the director hears it differently. What played for one director, your not even interpretation. This is very by the numbers. It's hard work. Let me be. Jeff said that this is the hardest work I think I've ever done, and I played, roles across the board because this is so specific. Once you got the specificity, you've got a little room, but not much. It's got to be.
It's a small target,
Yeah.
But it's funny, I just did Bowling, and that was a challenge. I mean, I hadn't learned a big role in a while, but then I realized as I'm learning lines and we're walking, I'm like, oh, it's the same every night. I mean, it's going to be the same every night.
Yeah.
Pretty much, how that goes. But yeah, it makes it
okay. I do see the clock, Ellen.
Yes, now we are at the close-up segment. So this part of the show, Jeff, is the very end. We just do some rapid fire questions just to get to know you a little bit better. Okay. So, Jeff, are you ready for your close-up?
Yes, Miss DeMille, I am.
So, what was the moment in your life when you just knew I have to do theater?
I was running. My older brother was in youth theater, and I wasn't yet. And he was learning lines. He asked me to run lines, and he was playing a sarcastic toad in Peter Cottontail. And I said, "You should say the line. You should repeat how they say it, and then throw it like back in their face." And he goes, "I'll have to ask the director." And then he came home. He came home from rehearsal, and he goes, "The director said that's a good idea." I said, "I'm trying out for the next show." And then I was like, but I would also say my parents. I was looking at radio, TV, broadcasting journalism in college, and every time we went to a school, I'd say, "Can I see the theater?" And my parents finally, they were unsure. But my older brother's also in theater, and I'm not sure how keen they were to have 2 actors in the family. But he's more of a director, professor, teacher now. But anyway, so I realized I couldn't give it up at that point. Heading into college, I wanted to continue.
What's a show that's had a big effect on your life, whether it's something that you just saw or a part of that's always been part of you?
There's a lot. That's a hard. I was certainly Sheer. I mean, it's been a part of my life almost a decade now. But I'd say most recently I did a play called Equivocation, um, which is a historical what if. What if the Crown commissioned Shakespeare and Company to write a play about the Gunpowder Plot of 1605, and he ends up writing a Scottish play in that play, and it's a lot of it is pulled. There's lots of Easter eggs. I mean, there's a lot of Shakespeare in Love type references, but I worked on in a small company in Akron, Ohio, and just the writing was so intelligent, and I turned a lot of corners in my process as an actor. It was and there's just a lot of quotes. I find myself constantly going back to that script, just some life lessons. So recently, I'd say that was one of the bigger influences on my work and in my life.
Are there some roles on the bucket list?
You know, that's a good question. I would love to do, I've not gotten to do 39 Steps. I'd like to do Baskerville.
That's one of Ellen's faves.
I've done
What?
39 Steps twice. I love 39 Steps.
I mean, there's just there, and that's a show people are like, you've done that a couple of times. I'm like, I haven't done it once. Noises Off, I haven't done. Um, a lot of comedies. Although right now I'm kind of hankering to do just a drama. I would like to just settle in somewhere and do something that's a little more serious. I'd like to do The Play That Goes Wrong. That's not a drama, of course, but
Which they mounted here at the Majestic at the end of their season just a few months ago, and it was fabulous. And Beth was in it.
yeah, yeah.
Are there any fun whoops stories of things gone wrong on stage that you want to share with us?
Boy, I'm trying to think. I'm way back in well, I went to University of Georgia for my MFA, and we did summer stock at the Highlands Playhouse in Highlands, North Carolina, and it's still run. I think they call it Mountain Playhouse now, but almost all the actors came from the university, and our sets were bussed up, and so it kept a lot of people employed. And I just remember I did an Alan Ayckbourn farce called How the Other Half Loves, and there's a scene. He messes around with time and space a lot. They're very funny plays, but they're intelligent in that way. And there's three couples, a husband of one couple and a wife and another. They're having an affair, but they use this other couple as their alibi. So they invite them over for dinner, and it's two separate nights, but it happens on stage at the same time. Anyway, there's all this food, and soup gets thrown. It was supposed to hit me, and the young woman who threw it, who was a colleague of mine, she missed, and she hit people in the front row. So that was a big oops. That same summer, I did Forever Plaid, and we kept telling them there's the number, the chain gang, and they hit the ketchup bottle as the sound effects, and we kept telling the prop guy, we need a new bottle, it's and he just, and then it shattered, and that wasn't as funny, but into the front, you're up front in the microphones for Forever Plaid. So trying to think other stuff crazy that went wrong. I nothing leaps to mind. I guess with Sheer, you're just accustomed to a certain level of chaos. Just a big whoops. Nothing pops other than those kinds of little.
Those are pretty good.
Those are good. Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, we're kind of wrapping up on time here, but it's been lovely talking to you, Jeff. And I'd say, as our listeners, if you didn't know, we also post all of our interviews on YouTube, so you can check us out. We put it on our Facebook page, the link's there, or we have a channel, Everything Theater Podcast, and you can check out Benita's fabulous haircut that she has for Shear Madness.
It usually looks, but it's.
Is it easier this year though? Because last year you didn't have it cut as short. Is it easier?
My hairdresser got a little aggressive this time, and I would
say that's more typical for Shubert, the way you have it this year.
Oh, is it?
Because of it has to be dried and set and everything. They do cut it. I think
it is easier. It's easier for Beth because Beth is the hairdresser, the shampooing, but we had to figure out a new pattern for curling my hair because it's shorter. And then I go off stage. Ostensibly, I'm still in the scene, and I'm busy blow drying my hair. And then one of the other cast members comes in, alerts me. I come running out. I've got some stuff I do. I go backstage, blow dry it some more, go backstage, come back. Yeah, you get a workout. It's too bad I don't wear my watch that counts steps, I think, for all of us. But
That's
anyway,
why I wear.
we are here. We open on the 5th of September. We run through the 20th of October. We close with the matinee on the 20th. It's an easy ride over. Just get on the Mass Pike if you're coming from the 518 and come on over, see the show, pay attention and participate. And also always check out our Facebook page. As Ellen pointed out, we post a lot of local productions and auditions there. Jeff, I'll see you downstairs.
Thank you for having me.
And for all our listeners, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. All best. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.